And also to add more perspective on this important visit by the Indian Prime Minister, and also the fact that he's been conferred the highest civilian honour in the United Arab Emirates, we are joined in by Mr. Waiel Awwad, who is a writer and also a political analyst. Mr. Awwad, thank you very much indeed for joining us in this broadcast on Wion. And let me begin by asking you this. Now, this is a significant visit by the Indian Prime Minister to the United Arab Emirates, and he's interestingly also been conferred the highest civilian honour by the United Arab Emirates. Give us a sense of how important this relationship is between the United Arab Emirates and India, keeping the perspective of the region at large.
Thank you very much. Firstly, let me convey my heartfelt condolences for the loss of Mr. Arun Jaitley. He was a great leader and a person that we have interacted with him for long years, and may his soul rest in peace. Regarding the Prime Minister visit to the Gulf, I believe this is a very important visit, and it's opened new chapters in the relation between India and the Arab world. The Prime Minister have cemented these relations for the last 5 years, and I believe this visit also will open doors for more investment of Indian investment in the Gulf, because UAE is looking to increase 60% of the bilateral trades with India in the coming next 5 years. And don't forget also that we have the 2020 Expo Summit in UAE, which is also of a great importance for UAE, that India should be taking the lead in participating, and Indian companies in this coming up summit. And I believe with the Indian the diaspora, we have more than 8 million Indian in the Gulf state. There are more than $40 billion revenue annually comes to India, and there are 14 million people visit the Gulf annually. That is also give you a clear indication how important is this relation of India with the GCC, not only for the India energy security, but also politically, economically, and historically, and culturally between the Arab world and India as a whole.
Absolutely, indeed. You touched upon an important aspect of India's relationship with the United Arab Emirates. UAE remains India's third largest trading partner. The quantum of trade between the two nations is about $60 billion, which we expect to increase, with a bigger quantum in the years ahead. How much of a key relationship aspect do you think the investments from the UAE is for India?
I think there is a large investment, not only from UAE, there are also investments from the Arab world. Remember that the Aramco from Saudi Arabia have come up also with investment in Reliance in India for a large $26 billion. This is a huge investment. And also Kuwait have also increased its investment in India. Also UAE is looking for more investment, and also they have provided Indian with a oil reservoir in the UAE islands and shore. That also give you a clear indication there is a more keenness and eagerness among the Gulf states to invest, because everybody used to say that we're looking east policy, and I think now everybody is following the steps of the Prime Minister acting east. That most of the Arab nations now are feeling that India is the destiny where they should put their money and invest in India infrastructures, and also in the petrochemical sector, where they are already looking for more area to open. And in fact, there are talks, lots of talks among the Arab ambassadors and the Arab leaders that India should investment policy that allow more of the money to flow in.
Absolutely, indeed. And one of the other aspects of this visit is the fact that the Prime Minister has been conferred with the Order of the Zayed, the highest civilian honour by the United Arab Emirates government. How significant do you think that is?
I think it's very significant for two reasons. A, that it is first time that they have given to an Indian Prime Minister, especially after a long chronology meetings of all the leaders who have visited from 1975 till date with the Prime Ministers and the Presidents. And I think this is a very important. Secondly, I should compliment the Indian Suri that the timing of it is quite important, because this is very important for India, especially in the international arena, and especially after the Kashmir issues that they have raised this issue internationally, and the Prime Minister was in France, and now he is in Arab country where will be having more sympathy toward India position. And I think there are also the UAE have expressed its own concern and supported directly or indirectly India decision as its internal matter. I think these are issues good for itself in the global map, and finding its not only as a regional power also, but as an emerging power.
Absolutely, indeed. And also, one other aspect that I want to discuss with you, Mr. Awwad, is the fact that the United Arab Emirates was in fact one of the first nations to back India for abrogating Article 370. How significant do you think this is, considering that Pakistan, which views itself as a close ally of the United Arab Emirates, its position has been rebuffed, and the United Arab Emirates has decided to back its decision in Jammu and Kashmir?
I think there are lots of sympathy in the Arab world toward India position. We know that everybody in the Arab world, we read it in our history book, that India is a victim of colonization, and India have amended these steps for the welfare of the state and for integration of the total India and united India. Then I think everybody will be in a supportive mood to the Indian position on these issues, because most of the Arab nations, even the rest of world as such, have already supported a bilateral solution to the crisis. If you have agreed for a bilateral dialogue after the 72 Shimla agreement, I think there is a huge sympathy for India on these issues. And we need to watch and see how India will, the government of India, that's what we get the feedback from those, from the Arab capitals, how India will be able to gain the trust of the Kashmiri people and integrate them into the Union, the Union territory. So I think these are steps which also help in building the confidence for the Indian government that there are assurances from the Arab world, from the Islamic world, that it is a matter that India should handle it swiftly, smoothly, and keep the confidence of the people as a whole in their pocket.
Absolutely. And one of the other aspects of Prime Minister Modi's visit to the Gulf, it's a three-nation tour. He's also at Bahrain. He is launching the renovation of the 200-year-old Sri Krishna temple in the capital city of Manama. How significant do you think this is for the domestic audience of?
Already performed many in places in Dubai, and when he was in Oman, when he was also Saudi Arabia, and I think
the
he
very
paid
sad demise of my
that's where
brother,
he is.
My mentor.
And I believe this is not the first temple in the Gulf state. There are in Oman, there is in UAE, and this is now going to be, because just look at the number of Indian available in that part of the world. And I think if we are talking of harmony or coexistence, things should be appreciated by the rest of the world, that there is no difference between any religion as long as everybody is free to practice his own belief in his own gods.
All right, so that was Mr. Waiel Awwad there, joining us from New Delhi and getting us his perspective in terms of this historic visit by the Indian Prime Minister to the United Arab Emirates, who has also been conferred with the Order of the Zayed, the highest civilian honor. And Mr. Awwad, you spoke about one very interesting aspect of how the relationship of India with the Gulf has been progressing. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, one of the key aspects of his foreign policy is neighbourhood first. He's also been speaking about Act East policy as well. But the attention that he's paid to the neighbourhood in West Asia and also in the Gulf, considering the fact that, a majority of India's energy needs are met by the import of oil from the nation states and the kingdoms in the Gulf. Although he's talking about neighbourhood first and Act East, he's also not in any way neglecting India's relationship with the Gulf.
Absolutely, and I think we need to see more of a proactive role of India in the region for two reasons. It's not only the energy security that everybody talks about, whether it's Strait of Hormuz, whether it's Bab el-Mandeb, whether it is the concern of the Indian expats who is living in that part of the world. Imagine if there are 8 million Indians living in that part of the world, and God forbid a war break up. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be a catastrophe, like it happened in the Iraq American war, and then in 1991 when the invasion of Kuwait. All these having a big, even Libya, even Yemen. Imagine these were a small number. I mean, we're talking of 100,000 or plus. Here we are talking of an 80 lakh people are living there, and if a war break. So I think India need to consult most of the international capitals and the local leaders the importance of peace and tranquility in this region to secure the oil supply to this part of the world, because more of the tension, we should not see it in isolation of what is the wider perspective of the global affairs. In fact, where we are seeing that there is a pressure on the Asian countries, particularly India and China, Japan and South Korea, because these are the countries where the economic growth is quite high, and rising the prices of the oil will lead to decrease in the economic growth. So therefore, preventing wars and protecting your own citizens in the region, I think that is a great important. I think India, as an emerging power, we wanted to see India more active, not only in Afghanistan or in neighboring countries, it should be also in the Gulf state. They should take the leading role, because they are the number one stakeholder in the affairs of the region.
You know, that's an interesting point that you make, because that is also something that President Donald Trump had in fact spoken about. I'll dwell on that aspect of, you know, what India's role can be in perhaps Afghanistan and also in larger Gulf in just a bit. But first, I would like to talk about, you know, the presence of the Indian expat community. Just for instance, in the United Arab Emirates, you know, the Indian expat community is 2 million strong. That constitutes almost 27% of the total population of the United Arab Emirates. So India shares very close cultural and political and other bilateral linkages with the United Arab Emirates, and this visit by the Indian Prime Minister has just gone on and strengthened that.
Absolutely, and I remember when we went in the 2003 and 4, we released Indian books in Dubai. We had a huge audience from the Indian community, and I realized that how important it was to have a sort of forum. Like, we created a forum called India Intellectual Forum, because we thought that there are people in the region who have a good feeling toward the Arabs. There are a good number of Arabs who feel good toward India, and I think this cultural linkage between the countries should be strengthened. And let us also remember that till 1961, you had being dealt in the Gulf state. So now, with India also gaining foot on the Dubai market, or UAE in total, that Dubai, who were working quite hard in also in the investment sector. And I think this is a very important steps. And I think the Indian are the largest expats, not only in Dubai, but in each Arab GCC country. It's always the India #1 Indian expat, and I think this is a great important. They can play a major role in converging the positions of India and the Arab world toward a solution to the regional problems, and I think this is a very important. And I'm happy to see that there is a great response, not only from the Indian diaspora, but also from the media in the Gulf state regarding this visit of the Prime Minister, and that's, I think, it's a very step we should all build on it.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Waiel Awwad, for joining us and getting us the latest in terms of this crucial visit that is presently unfolding in the United Arab Emirates.